One of Sex and the City's most enlightening episodes is Season 1, Episode 10, The Baby Shower. In this episode, Carrie and her friends go to a suburb in Connecticut to visit Lainey, an old frenemy of all of them who has traded her years of wild partying for a softer, quieter lifestyle as a wife and soon-to-be mother. Lainey was, in Samantha's worlds, the poster child for low self-esteem, which in my opinion is a kind of condescending remark, but as we later see, quite an accurate one. She was the kind of person who derived a lot of pleasure and self-acceptance from the approval she got from other people. She was wild, sexual, and attention-seeking. And even if it was not for the best reasons, you could tell she was having a lot of fun with her previous life. So, what made her completely change? This transformation makes Carrie and her friends wonder, is this baby shower worse because it's Lainey's?
Every time she went on a scouting trip, she came back with some hot new group and a gynecological condition no one had ever heard of.
Lainey was the wild one who suddenly became an affluent suburban mom, and such an extreme contrast usually helps build either an aspirational story or a cautionary tale. This sense of contrast also highlights the inadequacy Carrie and her friends may feel in that environment, where they are expected to have already found the man of their lives and started having children. In both groups, Carrie's and Lainey's, there's a sense of proving to the other that the life choices were the right ones, especially because they directly oppose each other. Lainey's being the new housewife and future mother living in the suburbs, and Carrie and her friends being cosmopolitan career women still finding their own way of living on their own. This is an excellent episode that gives us an intelligent observation of what motherhood means for someone who may or may not be on the verge of it. Here, we not only meet Carrie's friend Lainey as a poster child of a new life, but also see Carrie herself being confronted with the possibility of being pregnant, and with her whole world possibly being turned upside down because of it. The contrast is not only present in their mindsets and opinions on motherhood, but also in their appearances. Carrie and her friends arrive dressed in black with outfits that scream big city woman instead of sweet, soft, motherly kind. The long black trench coats further emphasize how out of place they are in this colorful environment, a situation later reversed when Lainey, who is now dressed in black, crashes Samantha's party, where everyone else is colorfully dressed, implying that these two worlds are simply incompatible. However, all the girls express their encounter with this new but threatening world in very different ways, so we're going to get into each one of them individually. I'm including Lainey in this discourse since she's the one I have the most to say about.
They all think the same, dress the same, and sacrifice themselves to the same cause: babies.
Miranda's point of view is particularly resistant, not only to the idea of motherhood, but to the idea of celebrating Lainey's way to it. Each one of the ladies have their own animosity towards her and her attention-seeking ways, so she reluctantly assisted the party, not without making some of her classic snarky comments, which, to be honest, I agree with some of them. In this episode, Miranda's fear disguised as resistance and bitterness is evident. Miranda's preemptive rejection of maternity and the ideal of motherhood comes from two places. First of all, and a constant for Miranda, is the feeling of inadequacy that she carries within herself, and second, how she has seen the effects of motherhood on her loved ones. She not only saw a vision of her life that she wasn't sure she wanted, but that was expected of her, she also saw the two sisters she mentioned she lost to maternity. So having this experience would give her a good reason to be so wary of the whole concept. A concept she will fall victim of later in life, but that's a conversation for another video.
I think it's sad, the way she's using a child to validate her existence.
Samantha is the more audacious one, not only giving the pregnant mother a bottle of booze, but also wearing an outfit that shows her belly, symbolizing a sort of rebellion against the whole concept, while also flaunting her abs in Lainey's face. There's a clear rivalry not only between Sam and Lainey, but also between Lainey and all of the other girls, which works as a strong metaphor often exploring Sex and the City, the ongoing war between single women and married women, and unfortunately this is not so far from reality. However, this is the first time in Samantha's life where Lainey has something she doesn't want. And although they all left the baby shower with a sense of defeat, later Sam was the one who reaffirmed her choice to continue living a single, child-free life without any guilt. And she did it in the most Samantha way possible, which is exactly why we love her.
Samantha did something only Samantha could do. She threw an "I don't have a baby shower" to let everyone know she was fabulous.
This episode also gave us a beautiful and hilarious moment between Charlotte and Samantha, which perfectly shows what kind of friend Sam is and where her loyalty truly lies.
Not the point!
What's going on?
She stole my baby name.
You bitch!
Here, we get our first glimpse into Charlotte's dream and idealization of motherhood and married life. We see not only how determined she is to have what she wants, but also how shallow the foundation of that dream can be. She has pictures of her dream house, her dream man, and even her baby name. And since that baby name, which let's be honest, wasn't that original or that cute to begin with, is no longer available in her mind, that was enough for her to reconsider her entire ideal life. This gives us a hint of the issues Charlotte has already faced in her dating life and the ones yet to come. For example, in her marriage to Trey in the not-so-distant future. At the same time, it also shows us Charlotte's eternally hopeful nature. Even when she sees her dream life crumble, she still holds on to the hope of rebuilding it with slightly different elements. And that very hope is what will one day save her from despair.
I couldn't help but wonder, was I next?
Carrie's worries about maternity are both refreshing and valid, and they perfectly capture the overall vibe of the episode. It's rare to see the media pose the question, "Am I ready to be a mom?" without immediately following it with an idealized version of what motherhood should be. In this episode, Carrie's period is a week late, and during the party, she's in constant reflection about what her life might become if she is pregnant. What comes next feels surprisingly ahead of its time. Carrie asks herself, and the audience, what lies behind the women who eventually become mothers? Lifestyle changes, stalled careers, and even unacknowledged sexual preferences. Not all women, of course, but these were the stories some of them shared. But that's not the main question. The real one is, after becoming a mother, am I still the person I was before? Is the life I'm about to enter truly worth sacrificing the one I'm leaving behind? Once I achieve the so-called ultimate womanhood status of being a mother, am I still valuable in all the other ways I've already proven myself to be? Carrie's reflection here isn't about usefulness to others. It's about being secure enough to recognize the value of your own life before bringing another one into the mix. It's also about how the title of mother can sometimes overshadow all the other identities we've worked hard to build. These are questions we can be certain that Lainey never asked herself before making such a huge step, which brings me to the core element of this episode.
You're huge! I know, isn't it great? I can eat anything I want. Jealous?
There's a trend on TikTok of new moms or newlyweds where they briefly reminisce about their wilder times. And although this change of lifestyle, from party animal to a more settled, health-conscious and grounded way of living is a natural transition for most of us, in Lainey's case, for example, it's something she agreed for the appearance of it and not entirely chosen by her. We see a snippet of Lainey's life, and we see she's wild in every sense of the word. She had a career that supported that lifestyle, one in which she felt completely free. She drank, she danced, she took her clothes off, and she slept with rock stars. And although these decisions weren't probably based on any more quote-unquote elevated way of living, this fast-paced world was fun for her. In order to meet the expectations set by society, her social circle, or most likely a partner since we're talking about Sex and the City, Lainey made a completely 180 in her life, becoming a totally different person. As explained by Carrie, this will inevitably lead her to the regret we see on screen. Lainey bought into the story sold to her about being serious and settling down, and she renounced her previous wild lifestyle, exchanging it for one that, from the outside, offers stability, class, and most important of all, the feeling of being a grown-up. This dream was defined by the American dream. It was the house in the suburbs of Connecticut, the rich husband, the growing family, and the whole white picket, or in this case, invisible electric fence, that kept her away from the outside world she had previously cultivated. Unfortunately, this perception doesn't make Lainey a sympathetic character until the very end of the episode, because Lainey, in more modern, simpler terms, is not a girl's girl. This makes it much more difficult for the other women to empathize with her. She's always wanted to be the center of attention, mostly male attention, by the actions we see her perform. And as a married woman, she carries a sense of superiority over the single ones, enhancing her own life while diminishing the others and simply being unlikable altogether. Lainey was looking down on the life she had previously lived, but she didn't do it because she was truly convinced of her choice. Quite the opposite. She was bragging and annoying as a way to convince herself that she made the right choice for her, or better yet, the right decision expected of her. And as the episode advances, we see she's far from an oddity. Because there are at least 4 women at the baby shower who seem to carry remnants of a previous life. They had different careers, different lifestyles, and even different preferences. I'm not saying this was the case for every mom in that room, but keeping in mind that Lainey will come to regret her decision later in the episode, I wouldn't doubt that the room was full of women with a similar sentiment to hers. On a personal note, I believe that in a way Lainey fulfilled the dream. Not hers, nor her friends, but her husband's. Because he got a wild girl, tamed her, and made her into a housewife. And we can all tell that it's definitely not Lainey's dream, as shown by her sudden realization that she cannot return to her old self neither physically nor mentally. Lainey's apparent sense of superiority over the women with whom she previously shared a lifestyle alienated all the people who might have reconnected her to who she was, or better yet, who she could be again, at least during the small moments of freedom that this quote-unquote settled lifestyle still allows. And this is an important lesson on why married women should keep, nourish, and make at least a little space for their friendships. Although it can be difficult and sometimes lead to disagreements, it's better to keep that circle wide and open. That way, as married and committed women, we still have access to a world of possibilities that extend far beyond our white picket fence. Take Miranda's case, for example. Although it was far simpler for her since she was already leading an unconventional road at the time, being a working mom and co-parenting with Steve, once she became a mother, she had the support of her friends too. Not only in her decision to continue with her motherhood, but also in the small ways her friends included her in plans adapted to her new lifestyle. We see Brady in the brunch meetings they share, we see the group taking turns babysitting Brady while Miranda is on her honeymoon, and we even see them adapting their language to a more PG tone. Of course, it's not an easy transition, but the fact that they were willing to restrict themselves in order to accommodate Miranda and later Charlotte is a beautiful gesture that only loving, real friendships provide, and that unfortunately many women, married and single, don't make enough effort to preserve. Lainey's story is quite tragic on its own, because even as a single woman or as a married one, she never had any sense of community in either role. She was in constant competition with Samantha and the other girls when she was single, and I'm inclined to think that the community she has as a married woman only values her as long as she leads the same lifestyle. And with Lainey's competitive nature, I heavily doubt she will be able to make genuine friends among them, which will only further isolate her in a life that, although sold as a dream, was far from her dream life. She didn't have anyone to warn her what these changes were actually going to be, or anyone to hold her when she inevitably regretted the choices she made. One can only imagine what happens to Lainey's life after she went back to Connecticut, alone, scared, unrecognizable to herself, with no supporters or remnants of her past life, heading only into the newer one. A life she accepted without fully realizing it will cost her the old one. In the end, the baby shower isn't only about Lane's choices, but about what her choices reflect to Carrie, Miranda, Charlotte, and Samantha, and to us. It asks whether we can embrace change without losing ourselves, and whether the titles society gives us should ever erase the ones we've already claimed for ourselves.
One day you're gonna wake up and you're not gonna recognize yourself.
If you have any opinions about this episode or any other suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take. And once again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye bye!